19 arrested in a Newark Garden heroin mill that caused 15 deaths. This is the faceless caseworker. Are you interested in learning about the opioid and heroin epidemic flooding our country and hurting our family members? Stop right here. This is the video for you. All right, New York State Police arrested 19 suspects and dismantled the three drug mills producing heroin in Newark during an 8-month investigation dubbed Operation Falling Spires. Now, I don't know what the hell the Spires is, but whatever. The suspects distributed narcotics and wax fold stamps with the same brand names that have been linked to 15 fatal and 42 non fatal overdoses across New Jersey. That's a lot of people that have passed away. And if anybody knows about heroin, most heroin is sold in little glassine bags that wax, so I guess it keeps the heroin good. But since they cut heroin with so much dumb stuff like milk powder and stuff like that, I guess it won't spoil the cut, not the actual heroin. All right. My name is the Faceless Caseworker. For those who don't know me, faceless caseworker. I have a caseworker, a mental health worker. I've worked in the field for over 7 to 8 years. Worked with people who are homeless, mental ill, severe illnesses, terminal illness, cancer, long-term drug use, alcohol, heroin, cocaine, crack, marijuana use, PCP. I've worked with people with serious mental illness. I've been in and out of almost every psych hospital you could think of, working with patients. I've taken over 100 courses. I have 2 degrees, psychology and human services. And today we're talking about the heroin epidemic. And we got a pandemic going on, but this here is a big pandemic that is really spreading across America and has been hurting the country. All right, we do recently had a settlement um, with these drug companies, and they settled for $300 million, which clearly is not enough. Um, and we also have the $26 billion one with Johnson and Johnson over a national opioid um, case, where they are taking blame for supplying and creating the opioid painkillers that are causing addiction. Now, this specific case here happened in recently. The operation started in December of 2020. The New York State Police Gangs Squad and Organized Crime North Unit began investigating the Garden Spires Community Complex in Newark. So, okay, Garden Spires must be a project in Newark. Newark, if anybody knows about Newark, Newark is a heavily um, low income neighborhood, has a lot of gangs, Bloods, Crips, has a high murder rate, high drug use, you name it. All right. Now, the investigation discovered that multiple drug mills are being operated at this complex, not just one, two, or three, but multiple. All right. It was a major distribution point in the area. Now, May 19th, detectives, the State Police Gangs and Organized Crime Unit, along with the Traffic North Crime Suppression North Teams, K9, oh, we had a lot of people involved with this. Aviation, Troop B, Tactical Patrol, Crime Scene Investigation North, Hazmat Units, the Marshals, U.S. Marshals, and the New York Police authorized 7 warrants inside the apartments. The result of those searches, they arrested 9 people, seized 4 guns, 500 grams of heroin, fentanyl mixtures, 5 grams of crack, hollow point ammunition, high magazines, high capacity magazines, the ones that rappers like to talk about, Dracos and stuff like that. Narcotics, packaging materials, several different stamps used to brand Piker's narcotics. Now, if anybody knows, you may have seen the movie with what's that, the American Gangster. If you remember, they had different stamps, but nothing has changed. All right, they still put stamps of different things like different brand names, different cartoons, faces. They stamp those things, and that's how they market their stuff out in the street to separate it from other individuals. All right. Now, this specific group of people had branding such as Frank Lucas and SRT. Now, Frank Lucas obviously is what we just talked about, American Gangster. These guys went very inventive. I mean, if you come across or you're a cop and you find a glassine baggie somewhere on the floor and it says Frank Lucas, I'm assuming that it's not just baby powder inside the bag. All right, Frank Lucas was clearly a drug dealer who was actually cooperated with the government. I guess he felt guilty for addicting so many people across Harlem and in the five boroughs and wherever else the drugs spread. And SRT, obviously, that's the Hellcat. That's the Dodge Hellcat. So I guess the SRT, they mean some powerful stuff. Um, and these two stamps have been labeled to 5 overdoses in New Jersey. All right. Now, what people don't know that heroin is not like when Frank Lucas is in here. If you remember the movie, Frank Lucas had to go find a connection to get cheaper heroin. You know, he didn't want the mafia overpricing him, so he went and got some military guys to get him some Vietnam heroin, and he basically controlled the whole market. Now, if anybody knows the day that we living in, these days and times, it seems like anybody and their grandmother can start a heroin operation because all you really need, and I'm not promoting this stuff here. I'm the faces caseworker here to help people get off of drugs, but these things need to be mentioned out here because a lot of people don't know how people just opening these operations because fentanyl can be purchased online. All right, I'm not going to go into the details of the research that I've conducted on how people purchase it online, but you could easily do some Googling and you will find out how people are purchasing it. All right, they have their ways to get it over to overseas. Most of it is produced in China, so you figure out and Google how they're getting the stuff over here. But so anybody and their mama who has a little bit of savviness can create a heroin fentanyl production facility. All right, because that's all they're really using, and all they really probably need is something to reduce the strength of it. But here comes the dangerous part. Drugs, when they're created, are measured, manufactured by chemists who have college degrees, they have master degrees, they have great knowledge of studied chemistry, and they know the strengths of drugs, they know the percentages and the amounts that would be lethal. Now, these guys who are bagging these drugs up, they're not chemists, I'm assuming. And how do they know how strong the heroin, the fentanyl that they're putting out in the street? They don't know. The only way they know is by seeing how many people are ending up in a hospital and the word they get back from the street, right? So these individuals are arrested for possession of heroin and fentanyl, obviously distribute to intent and distribution of heroin, and obviously the firearm and conspiracy to manufacture, distribute heroin and fentanyl. That's what I mean. They're manufacturing, I mean they're purchasing the stuff, they're cutting it up and turning it into heroin. All right. And they've also were selling this stuff not far from schools and parks, which is also illegal in New Jersey and a lot of cities. So what are we dealing with here? We're dealing with some serious problems out in our community. But it's great that they're working harder despite what's going on out here and the defunding of police. It's only suffering people who are trying to get off of drugs. The sad thing when I'm looking at the images of these individuals, majority of them look like they're the addicts. I mean, if you know, you'll see the image. A lot of them look very tired, worn down. You know, they look like they've been through it. You have a few of them. You can kind of differentiate who is the addict and who is the dealer by how clean and how wide-eyed they are. But you know, that's a whole nother story and a whole nother video. But yes, Newark, it was a drug bust. Many people were taken down. Hopefully that will clean up some heroin in the New Jersey area. But like they say, once one guy is arrested, another one is ready to fill in the spot. All right. And, you know, they'll keep taking down these spots and hopefully they will clean up the community. But the biggest thing here is, you know, you can remove the drugs, but a drug addict would just drive a couple of miles farther to go get the drug anyway. How can this drug stop? The war on drugs has never been beat. It's still here. It's still in effect. Uh, but once again, there's rehabs, there's drug facilities. You call your local 311 number. Call 911, or not 911, but call your local information line and let them know that you have a drug problem. A quick Google search in your area can find you a local drug program if you are addicted to heroin. And obviously, heroin has physical and mental traits that make it very difficult to achieve, but many people have quit. And if you're listening to this video, you also can fight. And yes, if you're listening to this video, please contact your local substance abuse program and get the help you need. All right, guys. This is the Faces Caseworker. Until next time, have a great one.